everyone, it's Alyssa and this is Always Cinema Chic, the place that encourages you to stay at home, get dressed up, and watch a movie. So I said I was going to watch Baywatch, and unfortunately for me, I did. So it stars Dwayne Johnson, Zac Efron, and Priyanka Chopra, and it's directed by Seth Gordan, who had done Horrible Bosses, which I thought was a pretty good movie. It was decently funny. This is a direct ripoff of 21 Jump Street, just not nearly as good. So it has all of the same trendy music, the slow motion, the oddball pairing, and even the plot. Like, the plot is laughably similar to 21 Jump Street. And it's just sort of all over the place with its kind of comedy. So it has, it's very raunchy, it's very cheesy, it's tongue-in-cheek, but then it takes itself very seriously, so it's sort of all over the place and it doesn't know exactly what it wants to be. Now, the movie starts out with a whopping 10 minutes of credit. I just did not know when it was going to end. And yeah, they have a few jokes in there, but it really speaks about the pacing of this film, which is not good at all. They don't understand how to integrate the humor and to get the pacing, moving forward. I felt like the movie was constantly stopping its forward trajectory. So you kind of start off and you are thrown right into the daily life of these lifeguards at Emerald Bay, and we meet Mitch, who's sort of like the king of the beach, and he has his two cohorts, CJ and Stephanie, and they're making the first rescue that we get to see. There's a paraglider and he hit his head, and it's so over the top and it's so ridiculous, and we get the slow motion and the really trendy music, and when Mitch goes and he brings this guy out from the water, we see this huge logo saying Baywatch emerge behind him, and I thought that that was really funny, and I thought if they kept the movie going with that level of cheesiness, well, then it could have been a pretty, funny comedy, but it's just all over the place with the comedy. So if it stuck to something, it was more like The Naked Gun or something like that, then I think it would have worked, but they're just all over the place and they don't really know what to do or what direction to go with the comedy. So we then meet Matt Brody, who's played by Zac Efron. And he's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. He's a really obnoxious, horrible person. He's sort of like a Ryan Lochte figure. He is nicknamed the Vomit Comet because when he did the team relay, he ended up throwing up in the pool and losing the race for the team because he was drinking the night before, but he's kind of okay with it because he feels like, there is a me in team. Direct quote from the movie. That's from me to you. So he is just all in it for himself, but he's lost all his sponsors. He has nowhere to go, so all he can be is a lifeguard at this beach. But he kind of looks at it as not a very big deal. It's not a very important job. And of course, Mitch is that counterpoint to show him that, they really are saving everyone's lives. And in this kind of movie, of course, there has to be a villain. So we get that in Priyanka Chopra, who is a hotel manager, and she has bigger plans for herself and her company, and so she starts dealing this really dangerous drug called flakka, and Mitch realizes that this is happening, and he basically says, not on my beach, and that's basically all there is to this movie. It's a bunch of lifeguards who think that they're cops, who start investigating and finding out where these drugs come from and trying to stop the greedy and murderous Victoria Leeds. And that's all it is, which sounds so similar to 21 Jump Street. But unlike 21 Jump Street, this movie definitely has a fraction of the laughs. I found myself, laughing occasionally. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. There were definitely a few funny scenes, but in terms of consistency, it just wasn't there. And I think what made 21 Jump Street work so well is that the chemistry between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum was just so excellent. I felt like I could watch those guys forever. Whenever I feel the tiniest bit sad, I just watch 21 Jump Street and I feel awesome. So it's that chemistry and the fact that the two characters are so opposite from each other. And I found that the chemistry was lacking between Matt and Mitch, and the characters aren't that different from each other. So they both have muscles in places that no one really should have muscles. They're super strong, they're agile, they do all these great stunts throughout the film. The only difference is that Matt is smaller and he's cockier, and that's basically it. But don't worry, because they do end up putting an offbeat, overweight character in the film called Ronnie, and he's just the comic relief where he's constantly made fun of and poked at, and he has a big crush on CJ, and he's put in a lot of embarrassing situations. So I felt like the writers were saying to themselves, oh, but we don't have a character that's like Jonah Hill. Let's add this guy Ronnie, and then he could be the brunt of all those jokes. Like, I can literally see these writers having that conversation and putting that into the movie. It was horrible. And like I said, the comedy's all over the place. You can go from one scene where it's very sincere and they're showing what a genuine family they are, to another scene where a character gets a body part stuck in a beach chair, to some tongue-in-cheek humor where Mitch calls Matt, Mr. High School Musical. And then there are a bunch of action scenes. And those action scenes were so disappointing because the CGI in certain shots was just so horrible. There's one scene where a boat is burning and the CGI looked like from 20 years ago. And it's like, come on, this is a Hollywood movie. We know you have a big budget. Don't be lazy with the special effects. It might not really technically be an action movie, but if you're gonna have action scenes, can you just try to make it look realistic? So there were just aspects that felt really lazy. And I would say the best part of this movie is Dwayne Johnson. So I've never actually seen him in a film before. I've only ever seen Moana, so I guess I've heard his voice, but he is so charming and likable in this movie. I was pleasantly surprised by how well he just carried this film. He's definitely a leading man. The character felt like someone who was maybe picked on as a kid, and then he bulked up and he stopped getting picked on, but then he feels like he's got to look out for the little guy, so he's always looking out for moms and babies, and he gives Ronnie a chance because he doesn't quit and he has a lot of drive. So he really is such a likable character, and if this movie had any positives, well, now I'm actually going to go and watch movies with Dwayne Johnson in them, and I'm really excited for the Jungle Cruise, which I was, moderately excited before, but now that I know that he's in it, I totally trust that he's gonna make a great movie with that Disney adaptation. Now, I usually like Zac Efron. I really like Neighbors. I like Neighbors 2. Even though Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates wasn't the greatest movie, I thought he was really funny in it. He can be very charming. And for some reason, it just never clicked in this movie for him. I felt like he was very obnoxious the whole way through, and the writers even try to put a character arc where he changes, and I just never believed it. He just didn't seem genuine in this movie, and I'm not quite sure why, because he usually does click and he knows how to be that kind of person, but it never happens here. And it could be the writing. When I looked the movie up, there were 6 writers, which is always a really bad sign, and you should usually run from a movie that has more than 2 or 3 writers, because that means they knew something wasn't working. They kept bringing people on board to try to fix all of these problems, and they just don't ever get fixed. This movie, like I said, it's not awful, but it's really not worth your time. So in terms of the ratings and the review, I go by 2 criteria. The first one is what it's like as a film, its artistry, and how well it fits into its genre. And in this case, I would give it a C-. It's not awful. There are some funny moments, but it's not constructed well. The pacing is totally off. In terms of the second criteria, watchability, I would give that a C, and that's primarily because Dwayne Johnson was just so gosh darn likable in it. So I think there are much better movies you could watch. You could rewatch 21 Jump Street. If you want to go a little bit further back, 1991, there's the Addams Family and Addams Family Values. That's based off the TV show. It's a much darker comedy. It's quirky. It's a little bit strange, but it's so funny. It's fun to watch. Christina Ricci plays Wednesday Addams, and she's a little kid, and she is just so deadpan. She's so funny in this movie. If you wanted to go even further back, you could watch The Naked Gun, which is just really a spoof movie, screwball comedy, but it's definitely way better than Baywatch. So I would skip it, and I'd pick one of those, quite frankly. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could like and subscribe to this channel. And remember, it's always in fashion to stay at home, relax, and make it a cinema chic night. Thank you guys so much. Bye.